A lot of times we think of speaking as just something that we end up feeling better about ourselves. And a lot of what we think is, I still have my job, I'm still doing well in my role, so I don't really need to speak that well because I'm killing it. Well, today I want to talk to you about some reasons why becoming a more effective speaker, as an executive especially, is going to help you make more money. I don't know if you're interested in a little more cheddar cheese, a little more grease for the palms. I don't know any more money metaphors. The C note, I don't know. I'm really blanking. But if you want to learn how to make more money, let's talk about why speaking might be one of the areas to invest in. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference.
Okay, so obviously, not obviously, but as you have been following me for quite a while, you'll know that the majority of the clients that I work with are executives. And they're not people who are trying to get a job, but there are people who are trying to refine how they come across in their job. So my goal with executives is to try to get them to speak in a way that they lead. Now, the problem with executive leadership is you're too busy. I mean, it's just the truth. You're too busy. And an executive will simply tell you that they don't have the time to worry about your things. So they are paid essentially by their ability to not do all the things. And if they're doing all the things, it's a startup. But executives, in a sense, are paid to try to empower and engage people to do more of what needs done to move the business forward. They're the visionaries, they're the idea people, they're the ones that are in charge of bringing in the revenue by figuring out the best mechanisms to work that through. But you often don't think about just how being an effective speaker can help you make more money. One of the light bulb moments I had is it was my first Dale Carnegie class, the one that I was facilitating. So this is a long time ago. And I was sitting in the class, and in a Dale Carnegie class, there is an end talk where essentially the participants discuss their greatest benefit. Like, what was it mattering to them to put 8 weeks of their lives, 3 hours a week, aside to try to take this course? Is it just for fun? Is it just for smiles and grins? What is this? And so a gentleman stood up, and he was a pretty big ranking sales executive from I believe it was a tech company. And when he started speaking, he said, since I started this course, I met my yearly sales quota. Now, everyone applauded, and I'm thinking, oh, that's great. He's like, but I met it 6 months early. I actually sold more ever this year than I've had previously in the first 6 months because of my speaking and the confidence in my speaking. And a light bulb exploded into my brain, essentially reminding me that truly, if people know how to speak in a confident way, they're going to make more money. And if you're an executive and you're going to speak in a confident way, you're going to make more money for your company and probably a higher salary. So let me give you some of these things that you need to realize when it comes to speaking, some possible outcomes. And before I get into that, just one final thing, just if you don't realize how important this is. Speaking is literally a leadership multiplication device. It takes your ideas and turns them into tangible to-dos and tangible goals for your team. It really is a way to recruit people. Speaking is a way to accelerate people's buy-in to who you are. So this is not just something for you to become better and feel better about yourself, but this is something that's going to benefit your entire organization. So first outcome, and this is probably the biggest one, and anyone that knows anything about this area is going to shake their head and go, oh yeah, for sure. If you speak better, you're going to sell more. If you speak better, you're going to sell more. Now, executives, especially in the startup phase, before we're into a board of directors and before we're into different wings and different departments, the executive is chiefly doing most of the selling. If you started a business, you're doing the selling. That's how you build the business. And nobody knows, like people say, I want to start a business. Well, really, you should first figure out how to sell that business. I've worked with coaches and I've worked with leaders and people that want to start a business, and they will spend hundreds of thousands of hours trying to figure out how to build a product that's amazing. And they craft this product, whether it be something that is soft skill based, like a business to business something, or whether it's a physical product, something that will be a deliverable or a widget. And then they make this product and they don't understand why it's not flying off of the shelves, so to speak. Well, it's a sales problem. And sales is a communication issue. So this is why it's so powerful to think about sales, because everybody knows of a bad used car salesman joke, right? Because a used car salesman essentially is coming to sell you something, according to the analogy, which I know a lot of car salespeople, and they're not all criminals and crooks, but where that misnomer comes from is that a used car salesman is trying to sell you a car that is bad. And they're dangerous because they're able to take a car that has no value and make it appear as if it has copious amounts of value. Go to the episode of Seinfeld when George buys John Voight's convertible. And that's a lesson in sales, because they made him believe this is John Voight, the actor. And of course, George ends up, spoiler alert, you had 30 years to watch this episode though, George ends up finding out that the car didn't belong to the actor, the famous actor John Voight, but it belonged to somebody whose name was John Voight and it was spelled differently. And so, but all the salesperson had to do is say the right words to make him believe that this is one of one. This is a one of one type of opportunity. You're never going to get an opportunity like this again. So being gifted in communication is going to help you to sell more. You're going to be discriminating about what details you put in to make somebody want to buy. It's going to get quicker. It's going to be faster for you to get them to make a connection with why it's important for them to buy. And it's going to make your pitches razor sharp. So if you think, well, when I invest in myself when it comes to speaking, it's just because I want to be more confident. No. You're not going to be able to sell your product. You're not going to be sell your company. You're not going to be able to sell people on working for you if you don't know how to sell, if you don't know how to speak. I work for, I'm a pastor. Sorry, in a million ways to say it. I'm a pastor of a church, and I've been there for 21 years. I have the privilege of working with a founding pastor. So he's the one that started the church 4 decades ago. So he built the church by literally, I'm not exaggerating, knocking on doors. This is before social media. He didn't have a TikTok in the 80s. So he would go from door to door and tell people why they ought to come to his church and how his church is going to be amazing. So baked into who he is this charisma that communicates with selling at the base. Not slimy, like, ooh, I'm going to sell this bad product, but he knows how to speak to people in a way that compels them to make decisions. That's why he's a good communicator. That's why he's a great preacher. That's why I'm glad that somebody like him trained me. And so at the core of building something, you have to draw people, and communicating well is also a gateway to be a good salesperson. So first thing is you'll sell more. That's the first outcome. Outcome number deuce. more people will buy in to your leadership vision. This is a people issue. Second thing is more people are going to buy in to your leadership. So let me give you an example. On paper, we can look at resumes and examine them and try to figure out who's the best. But sometimes the person that gets the job is the person who came in, who had more charisma, who had a little bit more flair, who was a little more present. And if you take that type of example and build it out to executive communication, the leader that possesses greater communication is going to be able to mobilize people faster. And he's going to be able, or she is going to be able to get people to buy into the vision. Remember, people don't want to follow someone who is not confident in who they are. Now, people will handle you talking about your shortcomings. They'll handle you speaking about your vulnerabilities. I've said before that vulnerability is a leadership superpower. But people aren't going to handle watching a leader who waffles. And it's like, oh, I don't know, like maybe we should do this. Should we do that? Should we do this? They're going to want a leader that is, even if they're not 100% confident, that communicates that this is the way we ought to go. Do I know how we're going to get there? I don't know that, but I know that this is the direction we need to be. And this is kind of how to rudder the ship. This is the way we're going to steer. And when people see a leader who is able to communicate their direction with conviction, with clarity, with strength, it's going to inspire them to buy in to the leadership of that organization. So if you're an executive, you need to work on communicating your vision in a way that makes it absolutely irresistible. I mean, picture it like a chocolate-covered strawberry. You're not walking past that. Of course I want to be a part of this. Of course I want to share in this vision. Of course how could I possibly go wrong with my life and not want to be a part of this team? There's a company, I don't want to mention the company's name. It's so funny. But I've coached and dealt with a couple people that work for this company. And the moment that I met people that work for this company, I'm going to call it ABC Company. The people that work for the company love the fact that they work for the company. You know, I work for ABC Company. I'm like, oh yeah, I hear a lot of people. And they are so excited to tell you that they belong to this company. It's a big name in this area. However, I've talked to some of the leaders in that company, and they said behind the scenes, things are kind of in shambles. Behind the scenes, things need a lot of process improvement and maybe some personnel direction, and they're not doing as well as it seems. And I've talked to former employees of this company, and they said, look, it's a dumpster fire there, and it's amazing to start, but it's really hard to stay. Well, what I realized just in that little bit of interaction is that whoever the executive or whoever the leader is that's communicating about this company is doing a phenomenal job. And doesn't mean that it's a good thing. I'm just saying they're doing great at showing this company as essentially like a dazzling diamond. And people want to be like, you don't want to work for this company? Like, oh, I guess you could waste your whole life never working for the most amazing company, right? So they set it up with the name has so much weight associated with it and just being a part of this company. And because of the way it's communicated, people automatically want to be a part of it. Think of Harvard, think of Yale, think of Stanford, these names that come up that people automatically associate with exclusivity. Well, a leader that knows how to communicate can make that type of messaging happen. They know how to use words that will promote their company in a way. And again, I'm not discussing ethics here. You should only try to sell people on something that's actually good. Like, I believe that the church I work for is the best church and you should come to our church. But there are people that are unscrupulous that will sell things that they don't really believe in. Oh yeah, you should buy this life insurance. Do you have that life insurance? Nah, no, I'd never buy this. Right? You don't want to be that kind of a person. That's a different discussion. But if you know how to communicate, you'll be able to do it. You'll be able to excuse the euphemism, sell the ketchup popsicle to the woman in the white dress. I'd never recommend you doing that, but I'm saying if you want to sell people on your vision and being a part of that greater vision, communication is the gateway into that, a vision they can feel, not just a step that they have to take. So outcome number 2 is more people will be bought into your leadership and the direction that your company is going. Next, you will get, and this is probably so underrated, you will get better compliance. You will get better compliance. So I'll give you a little bit of an example of what I mean by that. One of the things as a leader that I do a lot is give instructions. Hey, this needs to happen. This is going to happen. We have to do this. We have to try this. You need to be here by this time. It's a lot of instruction. It's a lot. And no matter what, no matter who you are, if you're in a leadership role, it's one of the things that it wears you down. Now, if you don't communicate clearly, you're going to lose a ton of money. A real life example, I was just working with somebody in one of our buildings, and I was helping the other pastor who was essentially dealing with all of the maintenance of one particular building. Well, I was working with a group of people that were cleaning up after a big party. And I told them to set up, this is all I said, set up the building, just set up the building. I didn't clarify whether it was for Saturday or Sunday. So I came down to the building and I noticed it was Saturday. They had set up for Sunday. So they added more chairs, they moved the tables, and instantly I knew the mistake was mine completely because I didn't communicate in a way that had a clear picture of what needed to be done. Now, this is not the same as micromanaging. No. I didn't give them enough detail to get the win. It was my fault. It was a communication faux pas. And so I apologized and I told them this is completely my fault, and it was because they did a really good job. And then they didn't mind. They're like, oh, we'll fix it. But it was my fault, and I realized the importance there because that cost money because I had to pay them to set it up again because I'm not going to pay them because they set it up incorrectly because I gave them incorrect instruction. It was my mistake. So in a bigger scale, if you're working in a company as an executive, if you don't know how to communicate what needs done, how, by when, and how much you're going to budget to do that, your company is going to suffer in leaps and bounds in the bottom line because a lot of money is going to be spent on either regenerating what should have been generated the right way or redoing work that should have already been done. And I'm not saying that this doesn't happen in every company, but I'm saying if you communicate well, this reduces the error in understanding. You'll get people that have less questions. You'll have less meetings. There'll be less delays in productivity because you were crystal clear from the beginning about what you believe should be done. So the compliance issue is a humongous issue. It's a really, really big deal because if people don't know what they're doing, they're not going to do the right things. And then you're going to have to come in as the executive and figure out, okay, this was wrong. And how do we fix this? And now I have to stay late and fix this. And we should have did this. We should have did that. We should have did this. We should have did that. And you end up having a problem with the buy-in and the compliance. And so if you know how to give instructions, if you know how to give details just enough that they need to go by, you are going to be worth a ton more in your company. So I'm going to pitch this again to help you. If you are able to and willing to invest in your leadership communication, I would love to help you with this. I've been in executive leadership for 2 decades. I have been in coaching for over a decade, so I know how to help you to get to your goal. So if that's something you're interested in, podcast@SamuelLinton.com. Podcast@SamuelLinton.com. The final thing is, the final outcome, I should say, is going to be you will land more opportunities. It is a competitive advantage to be a good communicator. Because again, I said this earlier to start. If you have 2 resumes on your desk and it's a jump ball, this one has this much education, this one has this much experience, this one has this much going on when it comes to their background and where they've been and how many jobs. If you interview them You are going to pick based on who you like. That's just the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Now, I'm not saying that if you have like an AI generated filter system that you might get a job that's better because your resume is a little better. But I'm saying the people that I've coached for jobs, and there's a gentleman that I'm thinking of right now who is extremely qualified for a job that he got with a humongous amount of responsibility. He was trying to get me to coach him on what to say in terms of presentation. And I told him that the key to getting that job is going to be likability. They already knew he was qualified. They wouldn't be flying him out to interview if they didn't think somebody like that was qualified. So the resume has already passed the sniff test. Now you have to pass, and I've talked about this previously, the would I have a cup of coffee with this guy test. Like if I bumped into him on the elevator, am I going to get indigestion and have to take Tums? Or am I going to be excited because I get to spend an extra couple minutes with this guy? That is you having a competitive advantage in the marketplace by having communication that makes you likable, agreeable, and it makes you a person that rises above in terms of your communication. So you'll land more opportunities if you're able to speak in a way that clarifies, in a way that translates relational intelligence and emotional intelligence. So you want to make sure that you are focusing on connecting and not just on completing. So with that said, again, recap these really quick. It's a little bit of a shorter one today. The several outcomes. Number one, you're going to sell more. Number two, more people are going to buy into your vision. Number three, you'll get clearer and better compliance. And finally, you are going to have a competitive advantage in the marketplace, because you will come across as a person who is poised, a person who is confident, and a person who is likable enough that I don't want to run away and jump out of a window when I see you at the water cooler. With that said, thank you for tuning in to the Sam Linton Show. Shift your mindset, find your voice, change your world. We'll see you next time.